Hello and welcome back to the Partner Podcast. Today we have Selasi Berdie from Sprout Organic. I nearly forgot then, Sel. Good, mate. How are you?
Good, bro. Good.
Mate, I've had the pleasure of knowing you for quite some time now, going back to footy days.
Yeah.
Probably people getting to know you right now would probably be a big shock to learn that you played NRL, and that was, I guess, the start of your professional career.
Yeah, man.
How long ago did you start?
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to go through, I guess, what the rugby league process is of doing juniors and juniors to hopefully Queensland Cup or your local state, and state through to getting a few games in the NRL. But whilst going through that process, I was always going to uni, studying, working, because I'll be honest, it's you're 1 in a million to make it, and it's almost 1 in 10 million to actually make it big that you don't have to work. So education was always big, and then had a knee injury when I was 26, 37 now. So retired at the end of having that knee ACL injury. So 11 years retired, but whilst going through that, I had already started the businesses looking towards that journey.
Yeah. Also, how many NRL games did you end up playing?
Played 2. Yeah.
2.
And number 2, yeah.
Who'd you play? What was your debut? Who'd you play against?
Played against West Tigers.
Nice.
Yeah. Back in the days when Benji was still playing, and they were still strong. Lost that game. Then that was the last game of the season. Then came into the new season and was 18th man for 4 weeks running, and then played a Q Cup game, shattered my wrist, missed pretty much that whole season again, and then came back. Got to play again one of the last games of the seasons against the Rabbitohs, and then season ended. Then started the next season, then did my ACL, and then that's when I just went, I'm not doing this again.
That's brutal.
Yeah,
Just crushes your soul.
I just went, is this really going to make sense for the longevity of looking after my family, myself? And the answer was no. So made the educated decision to look at other paths.
And you said while you were playing, you were studying. What were you studying?
I did exercise science, and then I went back and did a dual degree of business management marketing. Just found I love and still do love everything performance and sports and nutrition and health. But when exiting with exercise science, went, wow, I'm really limited in what job opportunities may be available to me. I always loved branding and business and marketing, so I thought if I could combine the two, we'll see where it could take us.
And that was the Hype Group?
Yeah, so I guess probably the first business I started was Biscuit Cafe. So whilst I was
anyone on the Gold Coast would know about Biscuit for sure.
Yeah. So it was one of the flagship big super cafes on the Gold Coast. We had yoga up top and run clubs and combined health with wellness and everything like that. And the idea came when I was still playing at the Titans. And like I said, after I did my wrists, I probably started realizing that if I do another injury, what am I going to do after? And I just finished exercise science, I just finished business, saw a big gap in health and nutrition on the Gold Coast, particularly for a hub or cafe. So hit up a few of the boys, being Greg Bird and Joshy Graham, told them what I was doing, and they were keen to back it. So they came in as investors, and then we launched that first, and then ran that for a few years, and then realized through that process I was actually probably better at the marketing side of things than I was at being the hands-on on the tools within a restaurant or hospo. And that's when I moved across and started Hype Group with my business partner, Miles. And we became like a agency marketing to health and wellness businesses. So use that incubator and then kept going from there.
Awesome. And not a bad location where you guys were at Biscuit, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man. On the beach, Mermaid Beach. Yeah, we were super. I look back at that time and just realized how good we had it. It was like a lot of people probably refer to their life pre-kids, which I do, where
Yeah.
things are very, very different. So it wasn't a problem being in hospitality then. I could get there at 5 a.m.
Sure.
I could leave at 8 p.m. Didn't matter to me. You're on the beach, you're working. To me,
Yep.
it was awesome. An awesome way to start a business. But anyone can attest, once you have kids, those aren't normal conditions. You're not going to get away with just working 24/7, not seeing your kids, not being there for feed times, bath times, helping them out, just being a
And you
dad.
want to do that stuff, right?
Yeah,
You want to be there.
you want to be a dad. So I just worked out very quickly that wasn't going to be a business I could do that in. So I had to make a choice in terms of not removing myself, but selling the cafe,
Yeah.
keeping the biscuit brand, but selling the cafe portion, so I could move on to other things, but be a more present dad.
Nice. Good choice.
Yeah.
um, so how did you recently exit the Hype Group?
Yeah, yeah. So we had Hype for about 6 years, and what we did was a merger acquisition with another agency called Periscope. And the guys are based in Burleigh as well. They became really good friends of mine, Martin and Nath. So they Periscope is still a leading digital agency that looks after the likes of Culture Kings and LXKD and a lot of really big brands in the
Yeah,
space.
nice.
So they have a lot of horsepower in the digital marketing aspect. What we were probably really good at with Hype was being a consultancy group and creative group. So we were able to really kind of partner with them where they had the horsepower of digital marketing, and we had probably the creative and strategy end with Hype. So they acquired us, and it basically works as in I sit on the board, but I don't have to do any of the day-to-day stuff and just give direction for the Hype side of things. But yeah, that happened at the very beginning of this year, 2023.
Awesome. Congrats, mate. That's amazing.
Thank you.
And so can you list through the companies that you currently have right now?
Yeah, it's going to sound stupid, but
No, inspiring, mate.
yeah,
It's impressive.
in short, Sprout Organic, the main business that I founder and CEO of, and spend 99% of my time doing, which is a kids nutrition business that specializes in plant-based and organic nutrition. Then I have CMBT, which is a sports performance business that has sports nutrition as well as a training center on the Gold Coast, also in Burleigh. So combine them together, and that's CMBT. Biscuit, whilst the cafe got sold, I retained the brand of Biscuit and kept Biscuit Whole Foods in a new direction of providing Indigenous foods. In particular, Ryan does a lot with Indigenous charities and his own charity, so looked at making a circular economy group with Biscuit in that space. And then I have a very small shareholding in a restaurant still. There's a legacy restaurant from back in the day called Lucky Bow. That's in
Oh, yeah.
Mermaid Waters. Yeah, but don't, like I said, don't have to do anything in hospitality any longer. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's always ideal.
I like you said, you do spend most of your time on Sprout, but how
Yeah,
do you, obviously you've still got commitments and it's
yeah.
the other things take up some of your time. How do you do that? Like maybe more specifically, like do you plan your days out?
Yeah.
Do you use a personal assistant or something?
Yeah, no, man. I would love a personal assistant. Can't say that I deserve or can afford one specifically. So how I'm pretty like very religious with what I do and quite disciplined. So for me, I just work towards a schedule and a time. Calendar is my life. It syncs to everything, laptop to phone, phone to iPad, and so forth. Everyone can view my calendar within all the businesses, so they're all synced and interactive.
Nice.
Probably the thing that I realized I had to do very quickly was make everything be within 5 minutes from my proximity. So the warehouse I have, where we're chatting to from right now, holds all the brand's products in one warehouse. So
Smart.
that creates like uniformity, that I can walk downstairs and I can see Sprout, Biscuit, CMBT all in one place. So that really assists and streamline things. The gym is across the road from the warehouse. So if something happens, gym, I could walk there if need be, but if I drove, it's 30 seconds. My kid's school is on the same street by design. So I'm 5 minutes from them. If anything ever happens where I need to drop them off early, pick them up sooner, whatever it may be, I know I'm only 5 minutes from them, and the house is 2 minutes away from there.
Wow.
So within a radius of each other, I'm 3Ks from any one thing at any one time. So that
Genius.
yeah, that reduces a whole lot of load that I'm sure people experience in terms of just travel journey, where I'm ultimately like at the middle of everything. And so from a business perspective, be it managers are in the same place as me, my fellow business holders or partners and everything, we've created like a co-work space by design where everyone can be in one spot. So it's very quick to have interactions and meetings and dialogue right there and then to fix anything that needs to be adjusted. Because if there was that distance of separation, it wouldn't work. It would break down really quickly.
Do you find it hard at times, like focusing on one thing? Like a question might be asked about one business, and then 5 minutes later, it's another thing. You can switch modes easily, or
Yeah, I've become good at relatively switching modes. It's not something that I would recommend, and it's something that I'm trying to actually compartmentalize properly, where I very much say that I've tried to split my time. Even my emails, they don't merge. Like I keep them all separate. And
nice.
if anyone's emailing me stuff, I tell them specifically, don't email me a Biscuit thing sent to Sprout, or don't email me a CMBT thing sent to Biscuit, or whatever it may be. All the emails stay separate, and all my timing of things stay very separate in regards to, be it 8:30 to 3:30 or 4, I'll look at nothing else but Sprout. I'll
Sweet.
unless I need to, unless it's like a complete emergency, then fair enough.
Yep.
I have to do what I have to do. But I
Yep.
tend to try and compartmentalize the time to block out, so I can keep a one-track mind for that project.
Yep.
But then the afternoon generally will be the CMBT point, and be it Biscuit will be done between like the 6 to 8 a.m. time period. Not ideal, like I said, hence why I'm trying to get everything to being linear, but at the
Yep.
same time, it can keep things tracking all right.
Yeah, that's good. So you haven't just lugged everyone in the Slack group saying "ping me whenever you want." You've got it nailed. No, that's good.
Yeah. Oh man, it's but I'm probably bad in the aspect of WhatsApp. Like I am in Slack groups. There was a thing where Slack became full on when we were at Hype, because that was also, there was the Hype Slack, but then there was all the clients interactions, and it just became overwhelming. Having client interactions plus the business interactions all happening in one spot. So I think Slack's great, but I basically, once the agency sold, closed that down, pretty much put do not disturbs on time periods for the different channels of WhatsApp that I had. And it was like, Sprout view during this time period, mute these ones. Okay, it's after 3 p.m. I can look at the other ones. All right, it's 6 a.m. I can look at the other one. That's kind of how right now I
Like you
run
said,
things.
unless it's like you need to put out a fire right now, nothing's really that urgent that it can't wait.
Yeah. And then we've got, it's not like, I'm not a one-man band either by any means.
Yeah.
Like, got great business partners, great managers. So my trust is in them. Looking after that stuff. I'm trying to hopefully keep my eyes on the big picture, to deliver on the mission and vision. So yeah, there's a
Awesome.
lot of good people in place as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. So how did Sprout Organic start up, mate? How did that start?
Man, it was literally, I had my first child, Ellis, and like every parent, you go through this period of going, you have no idea what's going on. They say you can read these books, so you can do all these things, but that genuinely doesn't mean anything because every
I
kid's
still don't know what's going on, mate.
either. Yeah, every kid's so unique. You're just doing your best. You're running on empty. You get told one thing, you try that one thing, it doesn't work. You try another thing, maybe it does work. But I became plant based a bit over 10 years ago, and so when I was going through that process and everything, I was kind of like, well, I feel nourished and fulfilled and good on this diet and lifestyle. I'd like my son to be. And one thing I knew straight away is just due to the reason I even ended up in that position of being plant based is um, Asians and Black people generally don't tolerate dairy very well. It's not part of our evolutionary cycle. And I think the rise of plant based milks has shown that a lot of people don't tolerate dairy that well. So it was just simple when Jen, my wife, was breastfeeding, and I thought, um, hopefully we can breastfeed the whole journey and there won't be a need for formula, but life happens. She had a bit of mastitis. I was like, oh, her milk supply is drying up. I'm going to have to get some formula. And when he was 11 months and I went down to try and check, and I was like, there is not one plant-based formula, let alone an organic one, but there's not even a plant-based one that is 100% plant-based. And it just made no sense that in aisle two, the milks, you would have every milk you could imagine: macadamia milk, almond milk, soy milk, pea milk, rice milk. You could pick every single milk, and then you could walk a couple aisles over to formula, baby milk, and there'd be nothing, just straight dairy milk, and that's it. And so I was like, how does that make any sense? Like, ultimately, they're children, kids, infants are just replicas of us in a smaller body format and type. So I was fortunate I had the nutrition and exercise background to look at it and go, if I was to try and do a plant-based formula, what would go into it? And what would replace these dairy components or animal components or sugar or things that I don't think are too healthy? And just started reverse engineering it, going backwards from there, chatting with my suppliers, chatting with different consultants, starting to realize why someone may not have done it, but going, those can all be overcome now. We're in the right space. We've got the tech, we got the ability, we got the know-how. Let's start making this happen. And so I made a benchtop sample for Ellis and went, this actually makes sense. This works. Can it be done commercially? And then went on that 3-year, 4-year journey to get it to a commercial time point and thought, now or never, let's give it a go. And yeah, went from there.
So I'd imagine there would been a lot of regulations because, like you said, you go aisle over and there's a bazillion different kind of plant-based milks for adults. What kind of like loops did you have to jump through? Like you said, it was 3 or 4 years. Was it because it was so hard to get it approved?
Yeah. Oh man, it's one of those weird ones where you looked at the rules and regulations. I looked at it a million times and went, we can do this from plant-based ingredients. Why isn't anyone doing it? Let me give it a try. And then when you actually get into it, you realize the regulations are hard. That's one thing. So yes, you're going through legals. Yes, you're going through food consultants, going through FSANZA, Food Standards New Zealand, Australia. That's one thing. But it's all the stuff that no one tells you about that you can't see. That's the hard thing. Be it competitors like sending in your products, be it people calling dairy boards or Victoria government or whoever it may be to say, these guys are doing this, shut this down, or you trying to get onto a product shelf and going, why won't this person return my call? Or what's going on with this? Like, we were positioned here and now we're no longer there. And it's just the actual sheer political nature of the incumbents and big dairy that create these fences and barriers that completely block you. That's actually what is the harder part more than anything.
Just pissing people off.
That's pretty much it. And like anything, people with money have power and have control. And anything new or innovative that disrupts that general cycle is not going to be viewed in a positive light. So by the incumbents. So that's where you just got to push through.
Was there any moments there where you're thinking, shit, I don't think this is going to go through, or I'm over this. I just want to, it'll be easy just to quit.
Oh man, there's plenty of moments I can say that I had doubt that we were going to make it, and that wasn't through a lack of passion or belief in what we were doing was good or right. That was just simply going, we're a company in the back of Burley Heads giving it our best go, and we've got these billion-dollar companies, Nestle's and Abbott's and of the world, like with their guns pointed at us. Like there's no way people would be lying if they said they weren't daunted in any aspect of that. Like I've hopped on like Infant Nutrition Council calls, and there'll be 5 lawyers from these guys' organizations just on the call, not actually doing anything, but they have the ability to have just 5 lawyers sit on meetings to listen and gather information to
Jeez, that's intimidating.
Yeah, oh, man. So I mean, there was definitely times where like I would go, shit, how are we going to do this? Like these guys will have their lawyers on a bankroll for more money than I can even make in revenue for our whole business, let alone anything else that they may want to try and do. But I think there's also a level of, whilst going in and thinking that, there's also a level of respect that these guys probably give after some period of time of going, wow, they're not going away. They haven't quit. They haven't rolled over. They saw us at a trade show event at the start 3 odd years ago, and they're like, yeah, we'll see whether you're there next year, and then you're there the following year. And they're like, okay, they're a bit more resilient than we first thought. Then they see you there at the second year, and all of a sudden you've got some lines and crowds, and like, wow, they've proven themselves up in the market. And then the third year that they see you probably start being viewed as a peer because you've gone through that hurt. I think the thing that they'll never probably appreciate is none of those companies that are there today, these big dairy companies or formula companies, ever had to do what we're doing because they're 250 years old. Like they've been owned by these multi-trillion-dollar companies. So these people have never been through startup. They're just
what they want, they get.
Exactly. They just have a checkbook. They don't have to solve problems. They just solve problems with their money. We're adapting, developing, innovating, disrupting. We're doing all those things to be relevant and to change the industry and the game. So whilst it would be nice to sit on their side of the fence, I also think it's great sitting on our side of the fence going like, we're the ones driving change and innovation. So yeah, tough gig, but it's still really cool.
You choose to do it, right?
Yeah, exactly, man.
So outside of your own personal, I guess, story and want for the product, at that time, did you have any like market validation? Were you testing anything, putting some stuff out there?
Yeah, and so what we really did was I did it in a twofold manner where I knew the formula was going to be the biggest thing because it hadn't been done before. But I also recognized very quickly that people looking at it would just go, hey, there's an ex-rugby league player that started a plant-based organic infant formula. How are we possibly going to trust that? Like their natural instinct is to look at that and go, that sounds ridiculous. Doesn't really seem like it's a legitimate thing. So what I did was I kind of went the other way and said, hey, we are going to be releasing this infant formula in the future, but to gain your trust and belief in us as a plant-based and kids nutrition brand that's doing good, we've developed a range of bars and snacks for older kids that you can start with. And most people have 2 kids or would try the product. And for the first period, I gave them away for free. I basically said, if you come and try our sample snacks and bars, you can get 3 of them for free. All you have to do is give us your email and pay postage and handling, which is $2.95 for the envelope, and we'll send it out to you. And so we did that for 3 months just to
Right.
gather email and interest, because once we got the emails, we're like, we're also going to be doing this plant-based formula, and this is why this is going to be a really beneficial product for kids, be it if you have allergies, be it if you're looking for something clean, be it for sustainability, all the reasons why something like this can be really good. And then it started getting people to believe in us. So by the
You're
time the
delivering.
product arrived, it was like, cool, these guys had already offered value. We got bars from them. We tried them. We know they're trustworthy. They're not trying to do a cash grab.
Yeah.
Let's look at this further. So yeah, that was how that part
Great
started there.
strategy. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really good. So at that time, during that 3 months, was the formula approved?
Yes.
Oh,
So
cool.
it was approved. It was more around the aspect of going. Approval was one thing, but getting an audience to sell to, and mind you, this was at the height of COVID, so I couldn't just walk to a store. I couldn't go to retailers and say, "Hey, stock my product," and do an Australian tour, going from retailer to retailer to retailer, and the likes of that. We were pinned to a room, so our only voice was coming via digital marketing and talking via email and the likes of that type of stuff. Hence, we had to go that other strategy to deliver product to people via online mechanisms.
Do you think in hindsight that's helped you guys like create a foundation to then go to retail?
Yeah, hindsight, definitely. At the time when we started, I mean, you would attest to it, having kids. No one buys their kids' food online. Like, effectively, it's part of your
Yeah, good
grocery
point.
run. Yeah, like it wasn't a thing. So I was sitting there going, honestly, when COVID happened and we were too far into it, I was like, this is just a nightmare. Like, if we cannot have, my thoughts originally were, if we cannot have this product in the tin sitting where someone can grab it as part of their groceries, I cannot really expect them to hop online after they've done their grocery shopping and then purchase the product. That
Yeah.
was like my original fear, and I thought, bad timing. We may have just stitched ourselves up, but what can you do? It's just the way the world was. But in a weird way, having to work so hard on getting everything right digitally to get people to trust us and do all those strategies meant people started changing their buying pattern and going, well, I can just get these tins on subscription and know that I don't have to worry about it as part of my grocery run, that every Monday it's going to be delivered for me. It's simple. It's done. I get it a bit. They started becoming happy doing that. And then that really did help us from this perspective.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
How long have you been running now? 3 years?
Just coming on. So in
3 years.
November, it'll be 3 years. Yeah.
Can you give us an indication of the size of the business now?
Yeah.
Some of the
Yeah,
goals
man.
as you're
So,
kicking?
yeah. And we obviously, like every business, you start off at zero. Zero retailers, zero revenue, zero everything. And we went, first year we got 500 retailers. Second year, got 1,000, and then now we're just shy of 3,000
Wow.
retailers, just underneath that.
Congrats.
In a similar manner, that trajectory is kind of followed in the pathway of call it a revenue basis, where we were zero first year, just shy of 500,000. Second year, tick over $1 million. Third year that we're coming in, be a tick over 2, because the financial year, just how it splits. But then hopefully we'll just double again. So our goal is to double each time period. So trying to run towards that 4 million run rate for Sprout, with the goal to obviously double again for the following year and continue with that.
What's like the split with D2C or online to
Yeah,
wholesale?
so it's about 51% B2C and then
Wow.
49% retail. Chemist Warehouse make a large chunk of that retail portion of the business. They're a large beast and our biggest customer.
Yep.
So
Are you in
working
a
well,
Woolies or Coles?
not yet.
Not yet.
We've just started range review. it's looking likely we're going to start with Coles Online first.
Cool.
I'll be honest, I probably would prefer doing that, just out of the aspect of product like us just sitting in a big supermarket whilst people think it makes sense. You would know if you've got no advice there, like no one to talk to, and you look at this big formula section, and you see Aptamil, Nestle, Nan, all these things. How are you to make a decision? Like it's really, really hard as a new parent. Whereas in pharmacy, the way you make a decision is often picking up the tub and saying, he's broken out in eczema, he may have rashes, he's colicky. Like, what would you recommend? And they can at least, there's someone as a professional to give advice. You can't pick up a tin and go talk to the person at the checkout counter and say, hey, what infant formula should I get? So I feel that may be one of the big reasons why online has worked well for us, and why I kind of lean towards wanting to at least start in these places, be it Coles and Woolies, and we've started in Woolies online, but if we're doing Coles online as well, to at least get people to understand it, because they can land on a page and get advice. Like we can at least structure pages to give them advice. I'm just terrified of just sitting on a retail shelf, no one providing any advice, them coming back to you as the hard-nosed business people there are and going, this doesn't sell, we're cutting it, and then pulling you out completely. I think there's just a lot more education to do before we get there.
You probably wouldn't have good chances getting another chance, right, after you've been pulled going back?
No, it's a one and done deal with them, which is why I'm so cautious of it. Where if
right at the
when
start.
we go in there, we need to go in there 100% right. So I'm happy with going a bit slower, growing more in pharmacy, growing more online, giving ourselves the extra year before really getting a deal like that ticked on.
So with the pharmacy angle there, do you spend a lot of time, or is there opportunities for Sprout to educate staff on the ground there?
It's way better. Most pharmacies, you have to pay for it, like everything you have to pay for, but a lot of them have an app education platform where pharmacists have to go through and complete. So you pay to get your modules put up there in terms of why this product. And then if you do that, then they can become educated in terms of Sprout's good for babies that have allergies or colicky, or looking for clean or sustainable and the likes of that type of stuff.
Right. Now, I know you've obviously got a background in the product-based stuff and being stocked in stores, but do you leverage any like consultants, or is there anyone on the board that kind of helps you with that sort of stuff?
In regards to the products or in regards to marketing?
Just those finer details, like you said, when you stock in, say, a big brand name store, like what are the ins and outs and what that means? Because like you said, some opportunity sounds like a great deal, and from the outside looking in, you're like, oh, you're stocked here, you must be a millionaire, but it can cost you money in the
for sure.
in the long run.
Yeah, man, we have. I will say that for the most part, there are some people that are really helpful in that space, but honestly, once you get an understanding of it, and you'll make mistakes, we all do within it, and we've lost money within that space. But I will also say that because you are the brand, if you own the business and everything, you have a pretty good gut feel instinctually for what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. And you have to remember, if you're using a consultant that isn't tied to the business, their number one prerogative is to get themselves paid. So they'll do a deal that ultimately may not make sense for you as long as they can clip their 6%. So if it could be a deal that you may lose money on, but for them, it's 6% of $1 million.
Cracker.
So they're just like, I still get 60 grand. What does it matter? And then that's why they churn and burn through so many different people. So there is, like, I've always found that part a bit of, it can be a bit cumbersome, and sometimes I don't feel 100% right with it, knowing that they're ultimately sitting on both sides. Like they're sitting on the side of, well, yes, we want to get these sales orders through, but they're not looking at the profitability or longevity of the business.
Yeah.
You are, because you're the brand, you need to survive. But like you said, it can look great. And then before you know it, you're like, wow, our revenue going to 9 mil and we're 2 mil in the hole. What do we do?
Yeah.
But then it's like, but you got this revenue, but you're like, that doesn't make business sense. So yeah.
You got to be wary. How
Yeah.
big is the Sprout team?
Man, it's small. So we have myself and Ben and Nadia, who are the other two managing directors in the business. Jane in sales admin, Sam in warehouse, and then Jan and Carissa is in warehouse, helping dispatch orders. So we're about a team of eight. Eight can grow up to 10 when we get really busy over
Yeah.
like sales periods where we need more people in the warehouse where we get casual staff through. But yeah, roughly right.
That's impressive. And you've just recently raised, was it over $1 million through the
Yeah,
crowdfunding?
yeah, tick over 1 million. Yeah, it was a crazy process. I'll say openly that I think a lot of people have seen how tough the market is right now with business in general, but everything keeps going up. The price of things keeps going up, from fuel to food to everything. So, but there's a limit or a threshold on what you can charge customers for things. And we're really fortunate that we had a lot of customers that believe in us and believe in our global mission to get this product out there to a lot more families. So just super grateful for everyone that chose to support us through this period to hopefully get us to the next stage.
Nice. And what does the $1 million mean for Sprout?
Man, a lot of it is just building up stock and inventory. As I
Stock.
was saying before, yes, there'll be some marketing expenses that will be attributed towards doing different things. We want to enter new countries, so we have to market and educate in those new countries, no different to how we did here. But to build the stock to be able to go there, because it's one thing us producing stock here and then selling it the following week. Whereas if we're going international, we have to produce the stock so far in advance because it's going in a container. The container's going to go on the water for 8 weeks. It's going to land in country, has to go through clearance. So you may pay for all that stock, but you may not see a return on any of it for more than half a year. So you have to have the plans in place of a buffer to ensure that you spend the money on the stock, but knowing you're not going to get the stock repayment for such a long period, what do you do in between that time period to keep going? So yeah, it's a lot of stock replenishment and inventory. Definitely we'll be using it very wisely to try and grow sustainably as best as we can.
And where's the next? Like, is it the US that you're looking at? Is that the end goal?
So US has really hard regulations to overcome for infant formula. Where we're going, other countries that share really close, similar laws to Australia. Opened up Malaysia, New Zealand was the other one. Weirdly enough, the UAE has very similar food laws to Australia, and also Indonesia. So they're the first cab straight off the range.
But what's the go with you see? I'm not exactly sure what countries it is, but how you have the ban on certain formulas that you can't buy X amount, and then they ship
Yeah,
it overseas. Where's that,
yeah.
and why is that?
That was back, it's less now so, but that was back pre-COVID with China. So what ended up happening in China, there was their biggest infant formula manufacturing plants around the country got shut down because they were basically using some pretty dodgy ingredients that were killing kids. So
Oh
the
wow!
government rolled in and shut down all the plants. And so when they shut down all the plants, it's China as a big of a commerce country as it is, when parents were like, we still have to work, often both parents working, how are we going to feed our kids? There was no country, no product in country. Was the next closest country that produces good infant formula was Australia, but you couldn't commercially do it in bulk volumes. Like me as Sprout couldn't just go right now sell 20,000
Do
units to
business in
someone in
China.
China. They obviously have those blocks on those things. So people were just hopping on planes, filling up suitcases, traveling back with it, and then selling each tin for well over $100 a tin because of the supply demand. And
Yeah,
then that's where it started. Then Australian brands and companies were getting wiped out off shelf, but then Australian families weren't able to get formula. And then that's when they started putting the tickets up to
true.
say,
Was Sprout getting bought out
man,
at that
for a
time?
period, yeah,
Yeah,
for a period, things have obviously settled down now that COVID isn't a thing, and the main thing, the Chinese factories have reopened again. So they made them clean up their act after about a year and a half to
yeah.
get things together. But during that period, yeah, there were tickets, yeah, still listed there.
So what's the future focus, mate?
Mate, I just really want to consolidate. I want to get the brand recognized as a leader, innovator, and disruptor, and really change the perception of how we feed kids nutrition. It doesn't have to be us earning 100 mil, 200 mil, or anything like that. I feel impact, creating impact and change will lead to the revenue results that we all hope for in the future. But more than anything, want to be an impactful brand, impactful leader, because the world doesn't need another Me Too type of products. It doesn't need more of the same old status quo, particularly in food. Um, with the health epidemic that's going on, and we all just came out of COVID and saw what that was like, that if we don't start looking after ourselves, in particular our kids, it's going to be a rough future for them. So yeah, just really wanting to double down and change that perception and go from there.
Yeah, great. So obviously, there's no shortage of options in terms of products for people to buy, and you're competing with people's attention.
Yeah.
How are you going to execute on that disruption? Like, what channel is it? Video content is how do you see yourselves doing that?
Man, I think, and I hate the term influencer, so I'd never use it, but I think the advocates system or referral system is affiliate system, if you will, is the way of the future in the aspect of you're a customer, you bought Sprout, and then you receive a follow-up email that basically says, you've been a lifelong customer for over a year. Would you like to be a Sprout affiliate? For that, you simply talk about the product, share a link, do anything with it, and we just give you straight revenue. So making people and consumers become the new retailer, because I'm sure that you in particular have used our products, could educate someone 10 times better as a dad, as a mum, as a family than what a pharmacist could, a doctor could, a store clerk could, because you've been through it,
Yeah.
compared to someone else that is, don't get me wrong, super smart. They've got all the theory in the world. They understand how the body works, but they haven't used it on their kid. They don't know why it works this way. They don't know the intricacies of when to feed, what their sleeping patterns are like, what bottle did you use, what temperature did you mix it at, what works for you. So I believe more in the power of consumers being the future and the way to disrupt things, rather than going, it's just Coles or Woolies, or it's just, don't get me wrong, they need to be somewhere in the
Yeah.
puzzle. But I feel working at grassroots, and you may only start with 10, and 10 can grow to 100, and 100 can grow to 1,000, and 1,000 can grow to 100,000. But if you're working directly with individual consumers that are therefore talking about the benefits of your product and brand, I feel that's where the big win is.
So I just heard there that partnerships are the answer, mate.
I think so. 100%. And I'm all on board for that.
Are you guys working with any partners at the moment?
Man, so right now, because we have such a big email list and because we've just gone through the crowdfund raise, we're pretty much putting those customers and consumers we had previously used an affiliates program called Refersion. So right now we're just referring people to our landing page, and they can sign up, and the refersion is the in-between that we'll capture their details and send them the money, and vice versa. So that's
Nice.
right now what we're using.
Awesome, mate. Well, I look forward to seeing the journey grow and sprout, getting out there in the world. You're doing a great thing, mate. Should be
Cool.
proud
Thanks,
of
mate.
what you've done.
No, I appreciate it. Thanks for the support as well over all the many years. And yeah, man, it's always good to see some of the other boys still kicking goals in their own businesses, and being dad, doing the same grinding journey. So it's really cool to see.
Yes, we know how hard it is, so we know we've got to
Yeah,
help each other out.
yeah, exactly.
Thanks, mate.
Sweet.
We'll
Awesome,
we'll
man.
catch up soon.
Sounds good. Yeah.